it's Alice, and today we're gonna do something that feels a little bit old school. We're gonna do a bookshelf tour, or at least the first part of one. I actually still love watching bookshelf tours, whether they're big or small. I just love seeing people's shelves and what's on it. Doesn't even matter who the person is. I just wanna, I'm a little nosy, so I just wanna know what everyone has on their shelves. And so I thought we would do one. I did one of these like 4 years ago, and it was a huge project to make, and it was a whole thing. I showed like every single book on my shelves. I'm not gonna do that this time. It's gonna be a little bit more casual, and we're just gonna have a little chat as we look through the books. Now, because I have quite a lot of shelves, I'm gonna split this into several parts because it's just easier for me, to be honest, to do it that way, and it makes the editing a little bit easier. And so we're gonna do, I think, maybe 3 or 4 parts. And in this one, we're gonna take a look at this shelf and all of the books that are on it. I think we should probably just get started and take a look at the books. Okay, so this is a slightly awkward angle, but this is as tall as my tripod gets, so we're just gonna have to work with it. And I'll be taking some of the books out to show you anyway, but at the top here, we have some Rhodes classics, and then we have basically this whole shelf is like almost entirely classics. I do also, because I have a little bit of a space problem, I have some books stacked on top of here, which I don't love the look of, but you know, I put books where they fit, and that's where these fit. So this book at the top here is just like a random book that I put there, but I really want to show you these books because these are Rhodes classics, I think they're called, and they don't actually make them anymore, so I'm really happy that I got some of them before they ran out of print. One of my favorite books that I have in this collection is this edition of Dracula, which I think is really, really cool. I really want to reread this book because I read it when I was like in my late teens, and I didn't really love it that much, and I think maybe I would appreciate it more now that I've gotten a little bit older. But I think this cover is just like very interesting. Kind of grotesque, but really cool. I also have this edition of Frankenstein that I really like. I actually have several copies of Frankenstein because it's one of my favorite books. I really like this. I think it's really cool. And then I also really like this edition of Jane Eyre. It's really pretty. These covers are very simplistic, which is one of the reasons I like them so much. And you know, they're well made, well printed, and it's a shame they don't make any more of these anymore. Then next to that, I have these books, which are these little novellas. I think the series of books are called The Art of the Novella, and these are just like very minimalistic, simplistic books, and I don't remember where I found these, but I just think I saw them online and I thought they looked really cool. So I got a bunch. I had more than these, but I got rid of some of them because I read them and I didn't like all of them. But I've kept some of the ones that I liked the best, and I think they're very simple but very pretty. Next to that, I have this little book by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, which didn't fit anywhere else. And then I have these 3 books that I really want to show you. So these are 3 beautiful editions of some of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. So we have The Snow Queen, The Wild Swan, and The Little Mermaid. I love these covers. I think they're so pretty and like fairy tale-esque, which fits very well, and they're some of my favorite covers that I own. An added bonus to these books is that they're also illustrated. On top of these beautiful orange books, I also have these 2 like random classics, both of which are really beautiful. We have this beautiful edition of The Housekeeper and the Professor. This is published by Vintage. They actually make more of these, like, of different Japanese classics, and I kind of want to get more, but so far I only have this one. And then I also have this book, which is beautiful. This is like a science fiction classic, and this is the first in a trilogy, and they have 3 of these, and they're all equally beautiful, and I want to get the rest as well, but I'm gonna try to read this first. Then we have these books in the Penguin Orange collection. These are some of my favorite covers. I think they're so cool. I love the classic, like, Penguin Orange edition, and these are, like, kind of different. They have, like, added illustrations to them, and I just think they're really cool. My favorite one out of all of these, just cover-wise, is probably this one, because for some reason this little penguin in the pot just makes me like really happy. I think it's so funny. I've actually not read this book yet. I think it's kind of depressing, but the cover is really cool. It also has a slightly creepy doll on it, but you know, it's a cool cover. Next to that again, we have one of my favorite books, and it's in a really cool edition, I think. This is 1984 by George Orwell. This is one of the more simple penguin, like orange classics, and I just think this cover, although it's very simple, is really clever for this book. And you won't be able to see it, I think, but if you like shift the light the right way, you can see what the title is, which I think is very clever, and it's also just an amazing book. Next to that, we have all of these beautifully colorful books, all by Vintage. Vintage Classics really know how to like make a cover that just does it for me, and these are two different collections of classics, and both of them are like beautifully made. The books at the top, I think, are called like the Birds and the Bees collection from Vintage. I can't really remember, but they are absolutely beautiful. They're beautifully made, and the illustrations like on the outside are amazing, and they also have like really pretty end papers as well. The inside of the book looks like this for this one, and it has like French flaps, and they're just absolutely beautiful. They don't have any writing on the back or anything, it just has like illustrations, which I think is really cool, and they're just like all absolutely beautiful. Then underneath that we have these books by Iris Murdoch, and they are absolutely beautiful. Now I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read any of these, and I've never read anything by Iris Murdoch. I really want to though, and for some reason I just saw these books and I just ended up like buying 4 of them because I thought they were so pretty. Again, they're beautifully designed. They have like this kind of spine, this kind of back, and again they have French flaps and end papers. Lastly on this shelf we have these 4 books by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Again, beautiful editions where like the illustrations go all the way around, and I've read all of these. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is an amazing writer. Americana is one of my favorite books of all time, and I should really reread this as well, but I'm really glad I have these editions that all match. I think they're really cool. Moving on to the second shelf, here I have all of these beautiful poetry books, and then I have this book here, which is like a part of this series, but it's too tall to fit on the shelf, so I just put it up here, even though I don't love the look of this. You know, I feel like it's better to keep the series together, because I feel like if I put this somewhere else, I would just lose it in all of the books. These poetry books, though, are published by Everyman's Library, and they're all quite small. They're like pocket-sized, and I love these. I've actually read quite a lot of the ones that I have, and the spines look amazing together, as you can see here. And I just think these are really nice. I had like 5 years ago or something, I started reading more classic poetry, I guess, and I found these, and I kind of started collecting them, and I love having them on my shelves. They're also beautifully published. I can see that I've read these because they've all been tabbed. I just think these are really well published. They have like the ribbon in them if you want to use that, and they're really beautiful and perfect if you like reading poetry. And they have like collections about different themes, like this one is about gardens, but then they also have collections by different kinds of poets. So you can basically find whatever you want in one of these editions, and I just really like them. Next to the poetry books, I have this series. This is the Mitford Murders series that I really like. It's historical fiction, and it's like a cozy mystery series. I actually think that the covers of these books are really pretty. I really like these kinds of covers. Like, I guess it's a form of illustration, and it has like some foil on it, which is really cool, and there's just something about these kinds of covers that scream like historical fiction cozy mystery to me, which is one of my favorite things. Next to that, we have some more cozy mysteries. These 4 books are in the same series. They're in the Death in Paradise series, I believe. And you know I love me a good cozy mystery. Again, I think these covers are pretty alright. I wish there was some like foil on them, but I want foil on anything, so that's probably just me. But it's one of my favorite like cozy mystery series, and it's perfect for summer actually, if you want like a cozy mystery set in the Caribbean. Then we have this book, which seems kind of random on this shelf, I guess, but to be honest, I don't have much of a organizational system here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I put this book here because I felt like it went well with these books, and this is actually one of my favorite nonfiction books. It's basically just a book about birds, and it's amazing. The thing that makes this book so special is not just like the cover is beautiful, but the book inside is absolutely gorgeous. It's fully illustrated, and just like look at this, it's so beautiful, and it has all of these facts about birds and eggs and feathers and anything to do with birds, and I just think this is such an excellent little gem of a book. Lastly on the shelf, we have these books, which are all collections of stories, and again, they're published by Everyman's Library, which is the same like publishing house that publishes the poetry books. I just think these are beautiful, and I love a good like short story collection. I don't read them as much as I used to, but I still like really want to read more short stories, and all of these books I think are really pretty, and the spines are really pretty, and they have different ones for different occasions and different places, and I just think they look really cool. My favorite one that I've read out of these is probably this one. This is a ghost story collection, and it has like stories from all kinds of different authors, and I've actually read this 2 times because I just really like it. Now for the next shelf, I have moved us a little bit further away because I want to get my pride and joy into one frame, and it's this. This is my entire Persephone book collection. These are some of my like favorite books to collect. I think they're so cool, and Persephone books are like an independent publisher, which I think is really nice, and I just love these editions. I don't really know why, I just think they're really well published, and I love the minimalistic design, although these ones are also Persephone books and are also beautiful. My favorite books that I have discovered from Persephone books are definitely the books by Dorothy Whipple. What's really cool about Persephone books is that they republish like lost works of women, and they like find them somewhere, I don't really know where, but they republish them so we get to read them again, and I'm so happy because Dorothy Whipple is like one of my favorites. She's just so good. I have 5 of her books I think in total, and she had 6, and I think they've all been published by now, so I need to get the last one. But I will always like treasure Persephone books because they published these books by Dorothy Whipple and like brought them into my life. Now, if we take a look at one of these gray books, most of their books are published in this kind of format, so they all look the same, which I love, but they also have some of these more colorful ones that I'll show you later. But all of their books, or at least most of them, are published like this. This is actually my favorite book by Dorothy Whipple. It's called They Were Sisters. And all of these books have beautiful, beautiful end papers, and they come with a matching bookmark, which I think is really cool. And I'm pretty sure these end papers are like tapestries or like wallpaper from the era when the book was first published, which I think is, I just think it's such a great idea. And these also have like, there is a cover that you can take off of these, but they're the same underneath, so I do that because I don't want to damage the outside of the book. And I just think they're really well published, they're kind of heavy, the paper is great quality, and I just love these. I'll show you the end paper for this one as well because it's really colorful and beautiful, and again, matching bookmark. These ones though are the ones that are published with like a painting or a picture on the cover. They only have some of these, and I got some of them because I think they're just absolutely beautiful. I love like the paintings that they've picked for these ones, and I don't know, I just love this publisher so much. I think these books are so cool and they're really, really good quality. And we love an independent publisher, so there's that as well. Then at the end here, we have this edition of my favorite book. It is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I think this is like the 20th anniversary edition, and I saw it and I just had to get it because it's one of my favorite books. To be honest, I'm probably never gonna read this edition because it's white and I don't want to ruin it, and this is the one that I'll keep like pristine, and then I have another edition of this book that I can like read as many times as I want and I can get as battered as I want, and I'll still have this. I love this kind of book design. It's very, very simple, but I just think it's very interesting. I love the way the text is on this, and I just think it's a very simple but beautiful book. Lastly on the shelf, we have these like blue editions of Vladimir Nabokov's works. I have Lolita and then a collection of his poems and a book called Pale Fire. Lolita is the only one that I've read, and I actually really didn't like it, so I might end up getting rid of this book, but there is something to having like a collection of books, and I have like several of them, that makes it more difficult to get rid of for some reason, and I just think they're very pretty. They look really good on my shelves, so, you know, maybe I'll get rid of it at some point, but right now it's staying. On the next shelf, we have even more classics. I have a lot of classics on my shelf. I just think that there are so many beautiful editions of classics that sometimes I can't help myself and I just end up getting a bunch. But we have some here. We have this edition of Frankenstein that is actually really cool, and I want to show you if I can get it out. This is a cloth-bound book published by Oxford University Press, I think, and I love a good minimalistic design. I love that the font is like this way on this. I think that's really cool. I love the brain. I really like the spine, and there is a quote on the back that I think is really cool. I love this kind of book design. Very simple, but very cool. On the top here, I have this book, which I just put there because I couldn't fit it anywhere else. And then I have these cloth-bound classics by Penguin, which are beautiful. These are like hardcover books, and I really like these. I only have a few because I think I like paperback books better than hardcover books, and so I buy most of my classics in like a paperback edition. But I do have some of these, and the design is beautiful. All of these books are designed by Corley Bickford Smith, I think, and you know, these are beautifully, beautifully made books. Next to that, I have this really cool edition of The Master and the Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. I still haven't read this. It's on my TBR, and I'm gonna read it when I'm in the mood for something really weird. We then have this little book, which is called The Little Snake, which I love. This is actually one of my favorite little books. I think it's really nice. And then we have my classics by Jane Austen. I'm sure most of you will have seen these editions before. They used to be like everywhere. I remember when they first came out and I got so excited that I just bought all 6 because I wanted a collection of Jane Austen's works in an edition that I really liked, and I love these. I think they're very cool. It has like watercolor on it, it has French flaps, and then some end papers that are really pretty on both sides, and so I have all 6 of these, and I think they're beautiful. Then at the very bottom, I have my edition of Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This is again published by Vintage. It's absolutely beautiful, and I kind of want to get more of these editions. I think that it's called like the Russian collection or something, and they have at least like 4 or 5 of them. There are different Russian classics that are published in these kinds of editions, and I love them. So I might get more one day, but for now I only have this one. And then I have these 2 books, which are again the Orange Classics. Next to that, I have another one of these books that I've put on top here because they can't fit anywhere else. Then we have some Patricia Highsmith classics, and then I have these 2 cool books that I want to show you. These are like classic science fiction books by Philip K. Dick. This cover in particular, I just think is so cool. It's one of my favorite covers. I love the design of it, and the colors, I just think it's really cool. it might have been the reason that I bought it, but I also actually read this book, and it was one of the weirdest books I've ever read, and it was a fun time to read. Next to that, I have this little book by Angela Carter. I think this is the Penguin Ink collection, and I actually used to have more of these, but this is the only one that I kept because it's the only one that I read and liked. And I just think this is, again, super cool, and all of these covers have like traditional tattoos on them, and again, it has like French flaps, and it's just beautifully designed. Lastly on this shelf, and I think these are the last classics that we have on this whole section, these are books published by VMC, I think? I don't actually remember. So these are called the Virago Modern Classics. These are like naked hardcovers. Again, I got like a bunch of these because I think these editions are really, really cool. I still haven't read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, but I am going to, and I really should because this edition is beautiful. We also have this, which is stunning, and this, which is again a book by Daphne du Maurier. I have actually read this one though, and I love the cover. Didn't love the book as much, I think, but yeah, these are also, again, really nice editions. Alright, so now I feel like we're getting into like the chaotic part of my shelves. This part of my shelf, like these three shelves under here, are usually more messy because they're covered by the door when these are closed. So this is a little bit more messy, and again, I don't really organize my books, but I do have a lot of like mystery thrillers in this section of my bookshelf, but I also have a lot of other stuff, so let's just get into it. At the top here, I have some translated books. I really need to read this one. And I have Bunny by Mona Awad, which I read recently. A lot of the time, the books that I've read recently end up at the top here. Then we have these books, which are some of my favorites, actually. This is the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. Again, I actually think this like book design is really, really cool, and I love how they match. I can't wait for the next one to come out. Hopefully it'll be this fall. He seems to write quite fast, so I'm hopeful. Then we have some Graham Norton books, and then more mystery thrillers. I don't think this is a mystery thriller. I think it's just like a contemporary fiction novel. And then we have this series. I don't remember the name of the series, but the first book is The Strings of Murder. It's set in like Edinburgh in the 1800s, like late 1800s. And it's ridiculous, but it's so much fun, and I love it. I guess I should actually show you the covers because they're really cool. The first book looks like this, which I think is excellent. This was actually a cover buy for me like way, way back in the day, and then it took me about 5 years to read it, and I was so glad that I finally did because it's a great like historical novel. I don't know if I should call it great, but it's very, very entertaining. And then the second and the third book looks like this. And I think the cover design is really cool, and it matches like the vibe of the story very well. Moving on to the side here, we have these two books which are in the same series. So far I've only read the first one, but I really want to read the second one. Then we have like an assortment of mystery thrillers, except these ones are like more cozy mysteries. These are historical fiction, actually. And again, some of my favorite books. I think these kinds of covers are just absolutely beautiful. And I've read both of these and I loved them, especially the first one. There is a third book in the series out. I'm just waiting for it to come out in paperback so that I can have like matching editions, and hopefully it'll happen soon because I really want to read it. Then towards the end here, we have 4 books by Jane Harper, who is one of my favorite mystery thriller writers. I just think she is so, so good at creating atmosphere, and I just absolutely love her books. I'm pretty sure she is Australian, and this is the first book in a series. These two are in the same series, and then these two are standalones. And I would really recommend all of Jane Harper's books if you like mystery thrillers. I love them. I love the writing. I just think it's so good. The atmosphere in this one in particular is just absolutely amazing. Getting even more chaotic on the next shelf, we have this random assortment of all kinds of things. We have like fiction, non-fiction, historical fiction, a classic. Honestly, this is just a mess. It has like Norwegian books and English books, but you know, it doesn't really matter. I know where everything is. One of the books I want to show you here though is my edition of Alice in Wonderland. I think this edition is really, really cool. I don't remember the name of this like cover series, but I think there are more of these. And I really like this book. It's like taking drugs, to be honest. It's like an acid trip, but it's a very interesting book, and a book I feel like most people should read just to have read. But yeah, I think the cover of this is really, really good. I would also actually really recommend this book. This is A Place for Us, and then The Vanishing Half is also really good. We have a classic randomly in here. This is Brave New World, an excellent, excellent book. We have an Icelandic book, and I think this is fantasy. This shelf is just a mess. I don't know what to tell you, but there's a lot of different stuff here. Next to it, we have again, mostly just chaos. On the top here, we have Convenience Store Woman, which is an excellent book, and then a book in Norwegian. We have this series. This is a trilogy, actually, and this one is one of my favorite dystopian novels that I've read. I feel that this book is like so underrated, and I wish that it wasn't, because it's an excellent, excellent book. If you like books like The Handmaid's Tale, I would really recommend this, because although it's not about the same thing, it has some of the same themes and a very similar feel to it. I've read the second book. I didn't think it was as good, but I still want to read the third one to see how it all ends. Then we have this book in Norwegian that I still haven't read, but I really want to. We have some Octavia E. Butler, some historical fiction. We have some Margaret Atwood. This is again a trilogy. It's the Mad Adam trilogy. I really want to read this, but I need to be in the mood for like reading an entire trilogy, because I would like to read it all in one go. Then we have my favorite fantasy series. This is The Kingkiller Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss. I love these books. I'm not a huge fantasy reader, but these books are just absolutely amazing. I'm still waiting for the third book. I've been waiting for it for about like 14 years, and hopefully one day the third one will come out. I've been waiting to like reread these books because I've been waiting for the third book, but I feel like maybe I'll just reread at least the first one soon, because I love it so much and I just want to reread it. We're gonna end on the most chaotic shelf of them all. Maybe I should have gone from this shelf and up, actually, because it would have ended on like the prettiest shelf, but whatever. It's too late now. This is a mess. I'm not gonna lie. There are so many different things on the shelf, and it's honestly where I put things that I don't know where to like place anywhere else. On the top here, we have some, this is like a translated book. This is a book that I got in a bookstore. This is just like, all of this is just random. These are like coloring books that I've just put here because they fit here. We have a photography book, a classic, a graphic novel. Then we have some like more coloring books. We have this series. Then we have the Hunger Games, which is very random, but I want to show you these editions. Now, I read the Hunger Games back in the day when it was all the rage, and I haven't read them since, but I remember loving them, and I kind of want to reread them. I have a lot of books that I want to reread, and these are some of them. And I actually happened to get these, like, I don't remember where I saw these, but I had to track these editions down. I think they're Australian, and they were really hard to get. Again, I don't think they make them anymore, but man, these covers are just so good. The spines are really good, and the design is just immaculate. Next to the Hunger Games books, I have some like graphic novels. I should really put this with my other graphic novels, which I have on the next shelf. This is one of my favorite graphic novels ever. This is a collection of 6 like horror stories, all illustrated by Emily Carroll. And this is just really creepy and beautifully, beautifully illustrated. I don't want to give too much away, but like the style is really cool, and it uses a lot of black and gray and red, and I just feel like it's very impactful and really, really well done. The next book on the shelf is also a beautifully made book. This actually has a dust cover that is see-through. So this is the hardcover, and then this goes over. And again, I low-key kind of bought this book because of that, because I saw it and I thought it was amazing. I have read this one. It's like a fairy tale, if I remember correctly. I kind of want to reread it. It's beautifully, beautifully made. It has illustrations in it, and I really like the style, and I think this is like a type of fairy tale, if I remember correctly. And it's just a beautiful book. Next to that, we have some fairy tales, and then we have this book that I also want to show you because it's beautiful. It's probably one of my most beautiful books that I have. This is The Phantom Atlas. It's a nonfiction book, and it's all about like maps of places that never existed, which is a great concept and also great if you're like me and you love maps. This has beautiful end papers as well, kind of weird but beautiful, and it has loads of illustrations in it. I have actually read this entire book and it was very, very interesting. I do think you kind of have to be a fan of maps to read and love this book, but I liked it, and you know, if you're a nerd like me, I'm sure you'd love this. Lastly, we have this stack of books, which is again a little bit random. There's some fantasy here. We have historical fiction. I haven't read any of these 3 books. We have The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland, which is a lovely like children's book. We have The Diviners, like 2 of the books in that series. I've actually read all of the books in the series. There are 4 of them, but I kept only 2 because these are the ones that I liked the best. And then lastly, we have this like young adult fantasy series, which I am probably never going to reread because I don't think I would like them now, but when I read them, I just loved them so much and they were so impactful for me for whatever reason that I just feel very nostalgic about these books, so I don't think I'll ever get rid of them. And also, I had such a hard time finding all of these in the same edition, and so I'm really happy that I did. And so for that reason, I also don't want to get rid of them, and I'm just gonna keep them for nostalgic reasons. I really should do something about this shelf though, because it is an absolute mess. There's like a gap here, and it's just not it. But I feel like that's gonna be a project for another day, and also I don't see this very often because I can just close the doors. Okay everyone, that was the end of the first part. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm assuming if you're here you probably like books quite a lot, so hopefully you liked seeing all of them. And yeah, I'll do the second part soon-ish. I don't really know when, but it'll probably be the next shelf next to this one. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you soon. Bye!